Hi, I'm Will Miller. I teach biology, chemistry, and geometry here at Buxton School. I'm also an avid gardener and I'm involved in work program. I've been teaching here at Buxton now for 6 years, along with my wife Carmen Welton, who teaches Spanish language. We live here with our son Owen and our dog Pablo in the house down the hill. And I want to show you today a little bit of the natural beauty and some interesting facts about life at Buxton. Allow me to give you a little tour. As we come out of the classroom, what you'll see is a beautiful landscape that many would call natural. But if you look carefully and you think about how this landscape is different in different areas, it'll give you clues as to how the landscape has been shaped by humans. Some of the trees are starting to change color, and that's an indicator for us the seasons are about to change. And so as the planet takes its journey around the sun and the days become shorter, all the living things in this environment and in this landscape have to adapt to that change. And that's a change that will bring freezing cold temperatures. As we walk through the campus, I hope to point out some of the adaptations that the living things in this area have that help them to survive all those different kinds of pressures. Now, in this space here, you can see that it's a blend. We've got a groomed grass lawn here, but then there's an edge, and what you see is what looks like a carefully tended garden plot. And past that, we've got taller weeds, and then past that, we've got a woodlot. In the woodlot, a few indicators of human influence. We've got an apple tree here, probably planted about 75 or 80 years ago by a person. And of course we've got what looks like a wilderness beyond that. I want to focus on the garden plot because I think that this is an environment that combines the somewhat sterile and generic form of a mowed lawn to a wilderness that is full of diversity and struggle and competition. Let's take a look first of all at this plant here. This plant may be familiar to you if you've done gardening, but if not, it looks like any other sort of weedy plant. A lot of the crops that humans have grown over the past 10,000 years of agricultural history come from species that grow quickly. In a short growing season, a farmer would want to be able to plant a crop that will grow before the frost comes and kills the crop. If you look underneath the plant, these are purple potatoes. It's very easy to plant potatoes, and so they've been a favorite crop because you can carry a potato with you, and when you want to start a crop, you just take a potato and then you stick it in the ground. Wait a few months and you've got a bounty of potatoes. But potatoes, because they're adapted to a slightly warmer climate than the one we live in now, if you were to come back in a few weeks after the first frost, you'd see that all the green foliage had died and shriveled away. The potato itself is the plant's way of saving energy over the cold winter months in a form that's not going to die. I'll just cut this open and give you a view of the inside. It's quite stunning. And what you'll see inside is a pretty uniform flesh, and that flesh is full of starches. Starches are a plant's way of storing sugar. So starch is composed of glucose, which is a sugar that we would think of as being very sweet. But the potato stores sugar as starch because it's a very compact molecule. It can stay for a very long time without spoiling, and it's readily digested by the plant cells when it needs to rejuvenate the green part of the plant in the springtime. So the potato is a great example of a way in which plants and humans have interacted over the years to benefit both of us. The potato gets a home that's cared for. The plants that are competing with it, weed species, are removed by us. And in return, we get to take a portion of the plant's energy and put it to our own uses. The garden is not the wild. In the wild, competition is free to shape individual organisms, plants and animals, through struggle, through competition. To give you an example of how humans influence the competition that happens in a garden environment, this here is a weed species. Why is it that we call certain species weeds, if they are, after all, just plants like any other garden plant? You can think of weed as a catch-all term that describes any plant that is either of no use to us or potentially dangerous to us. And I wish we had smell-o-vision now, because one thing you'll notice about this weed if you hold it in your hand is that it actually smells pretty bad. And I'll just sniff it and maybe describe the smell. It smells a little bit like vomit, actually. That smell is an indicator of the fact that this plant contains toxins that are potentially very dangerous to humans and other animals that would eat it. A common characteristic of weeds is that they do grow rapidly, and they're capable of competing with the plants that we want to grow. So by removing this weed, I've now taken it out of competition with this fruit bush that I'm trying to grow. From the perspective of this plant, those toxins are actually quite helpful, because what they do is they allow this plant to grow without danger of predation, being consumed by either insects or grazing animals. So that noxious smell, what's I'm sure accompanies a bitter taste, will help keep this particular weed species alive. Just pull up a carrot, right? Pull up a nice fresh carrot. And again, this is a smell-o-vision moment, but if you smell a carrot, a fresh carrot, it's got a very distinct fragrance. And if we just walk along the edge of the field there, we'll come across a wild parsnip. Pull it out of the ground and give it a sniff, and it's precisely the exact scent that you would expect from a carrot. That exact chemical molecular structure hit your nose, you just know that they're related. You know, you don't have to explain it any further. You just say that there's a wild carrot. Those aromatic compounds in the wild plants are actually signals, but generally what they are signals of toxicity. The plant is using it as a way of saying, don't eat me, and I'm toxic, by the way. So the same molecule that gives it that odor is also the toxin. But in carrots, you know, we've grown these for so long that you can actually eat a raw carrot without getting sick, because it's got a dilute enough concentration of that particular aromatic compound that it's not going to hurt us. So kale and cabbage and other brassicas are prized for their flavor and the way that they cook up in the kitchen. Human beings as omnivores eat a wide variety of plants and animals, and because of our omnivorous diet, we've actually developed a very large organ to cope with some of the toxins produced by the variety of plants we eat, and that is our liver. The human liver is large in comparison to the liver of other mammals. Precisely because we eat such a wide variety of foods, our liver has to be able to detoxify the blood. But a little bit of a toxin can actually have a positive benefit. And it's thought, at least some research suggests, that a diet that contains cruciferous vegetables contains just the right amount of the phytotoxin found in the leaves to actually provide some sort of protection against cancer. So you get a little bit of the health benefit of a toxin that's really the plant is intending to kill any predator that's eating it. Now, anything that does smell like perfumey or sweet, the plant world has sort of marketed that from a sweet perspective. So the sweet fragrant smell of an apple lets us know that it's ripe and ready to eat. And it's the plant's way of signaling that its seeds are also ready to travel. So if you look closely at the cabbage heads, you'll see that there's some holes. Looking deeper in the leaves, you can find some of the droppings of the cabbage white caterpillar. And here's an example of the cabbage white caterpillar. This particular one is about half the size of a full-grown caterpillar. And here it sits inside of the cabbage head, protected from potential bird predators. If this was smell-o-vision, you'd be able to smell the stinky, rotting smell of cabbage. It smells a little bit actually like yellow mustard. And the reason for that is that the cabbage plant itself is related to mustard. It's an example of a crop that humans have guided over the past several thousand years to become a good food source for us. But it retains that smell, that pungent smell of mustard from its days as a wild plant. And the reason for that pungent smell, similar to the smell of the pigweed that I showed you earlier, is that the aromatic compound that produces the mustard flavor is a toxin, and it's toxic to many insects. But the cabbage worm has cracked the code of the mustard toxin, so it can live in a paradise of food. I mean, imagine waking up in the morning, rolling over and taking a bite of the pizza that you live on.